Alrighty, it's time for another garden update here on May 4th. And I don't really know how any of this is going to come out, actually. I put my phone in my pocket here, so I guess I can hold it for a while. But anyway, these are my morning glories here. We've got some peas in this spot here, some radish, I believe. Daikon radish, that is. Some buckwheat here, some more radish, and there's a couple purple radish in there, kind of sprinkled in. We've got sunflowers right along the edging there, and then green peas here in this spot. So we got some leafy greens here, Swiss chard, and collards, and this is broccoli, which is going to seed. It's getting nice and big. We've also got some basil down here and some parsley, which are doing pretty well here in this spot, which is basically full sun. And there's an impatiens down there underneath the vinca, which is kind of hanging on. Of course, the vinca is doing very well. It really likes that full sun spot. So here we've got, I believe these are more sunflowers. There's a petunia right there, but sunflowers, I think, and then there's some buckwheat along the edging there. So I'm just trying to throw a bunch of seeds in here to see what would come up, honestly. These are potatoes. So 3 potato plants here, and then 4th one down there. But these are actually just from full potatoes that I stuck under the ground, just buried very lightly with some soil and then mulched. And that was probably a month ago, so this is about a month's worth of growth. But these are definitely looking really good. So another parsley here, and then another vinca. Now here we've got some okra that's coming up. These were direct seeded into the ground here, and there's actually what looks like maybe 3 more okra plants here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's actually more like maybe 5 okra plants. But they're just trying to grow faster than the Hubbard squash around it, which I'll get to that in a second. In here in this little pot, we've got got a snapdragon that's just kind of hanging out there. I didn't really want to put it in the ground. I might still do that, but I haven't yet. And then of course my gnome. So here we've got the greens along the property line here, and these are all collards and Swiss chard alternating. And obviously the collards have really outpaced the Swiss chard. Now they're both doing good, but the collards are just so much bigger. And I have been harvesting some of these leaves when they start to grow over the path here, and then also when they start to grow over the property line. So I'm trying to keep them kind of vertical growth habit here and in line with each other. But you can see some of the spots where some of the leaves have been harvested. And I do have some sauerkraut that I'm making right now from these. So that's a little ways away from actually being ready to eat. I mean, I can't eat it now, but I'd like to give it some more time. So here's the whole garden from the back. Now all of this here is the Hubbard squash that I mentioned, and so you can see some of the squashes that are growing right now. You can see this trying to find a spot to get some water from. That's not gonna really get that here growing in the air. But I've went ahead and I've tied this to this hook just so that it wouldn't start growing inside the hedge here. But you can see there's my collard here is holding on to that squash, just kind of cradling it. But I think I ended up with probably something like 5 or 6 squash plants altogether. So it's pretty hard to see actually where they start. But like I think like there's one that definitely started right here. There's another one started like there, I think. There's another one over there. Something like that. But it ended up just spreading in all different directions. But none of the squashes are actually ready to harvest yet, except this one's getting close, but it's still green. It needs to kind of turn bluish gray before it's ready. But as for everything else that was planted here and that was growing before the squash kind of took over, there's a kohlrabi in here, and this one's kind of funky. I'm not sure what happened, but it's supposed to develop a heart like this, and then of course the heart is edible along with all the leaves. I really like it just because it looks cool, but I don't know what happened with this. It kind of ruptured or something. It's pretty hard, but I'm just letting it grow. Not really gonna bother harvesting it yet, unless something starts eating it. And these, it does look like something's been nibbling on it, but I mean, it's, for the most part, it's healthy, so I'm not too worried. I think once something starts to eat the squash leaves, then it's just gonna probably just go over everything. So I'm just keeping an eye on that. But yeah, as I mentioned before, the okra here, and these have been getting nibbled a little bit too. Not really sure what from, but otherwise they look healthy. So I've got lantanas down here that have been growing for, they were some of the first things I put in here. So growing for a couple months. Lantanas look like they're doing really well here. And then here's all the chamomile. And that's doing really well as far as flowering, and then all the pollinating insects really like that. There's some love bugs on it and stuff, but I'm actually going to be harvesting a lot of these after this. I think it's probably going to spread everywhere, but I'd like to at least have it spread, in a controlled fashion. Here's the nexus for another one of the squash plants. You can see the base of it there. But so I started with 8 chamomile plants. 1, 2, 3, 4, but they've kind of been taken over, as you can see. And I haven't really done much as far as maintenance for any of these plants. I just kind of let everything grow. And interestingly, it looks like this pepper here is like, this was a lot bushier before, and it's kind of disintegrating. This one has 2. It's still got some volume to it, and there's a flower up there on top, but it doesn't look great. I think the squash is taking a lot of the light and the nutrients, and probably the water too. The squash is kind of taking over, but I don't mind that too much because the squash lasts such a long time. I'd love to have a good harvest of that, and then I could just be eating it for a few months, but these peppers up front here are doing a lot better, as you can see. These actually have some really good looking peppers that have grown in here, especially in here. Check these out. So I'm gonna harvest all of those tonight, just because I don't want anything to happen to them. But this plant I put in here last. It was actually quite a bit younger than the other 3 here, but they're relatively healthy. They just have a lot of those little bite marks in them, but I don't actually see evidence of any insects actually on there right now, which is good. I think they probably come in waves, you know, they come and they eat. They eat for a while, for a couple days, and then something finds them and eats those bugs. So it's a constant battle between the good bugs and the bad bugs, you know. But over here I've got a blackberry bush, which is probably going to take forever before it starts fruiting, but that's fine. And then this is a little patch of bok choy. And same thing with these. I mean, these look like when they get targeted, they get eaten pretty quick because they're young and tender leaves. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this probably more closely than everything else, just because they're all very young and tender. But I'll probably harvest a bunch of those maybe in a week or two. And there's a bunch more seeds right there. So as soon as those seeds get agitated, those pods, some more will get planted here, essentially, and they'll start coming up. But that's mostly it for these guys. You see, I've tried tying the Hubbard squash up so that it has a little bit, more area to grow in, rather than just growing all along the ground, So I do still have a lane to walk in back here. You could see where I tied this guy up. Put this hook in the ground here, tied it up, and got some extra tie here so I can redo it as I need to, or reinforce it or whatever. But eventually, I think I'd probably like to have it just growing like directly across. So from that hook over to this hook, and then from this hook over to this hook, and then adding more bamboo and everything as I need to. Here's just a random potato plant that was actually from a cutting, so just a part of the potato that had sprouted. I just stuck that in the ground here maybe 10 days ago, maybe a week ago or 10 days ago, so it hasn't really taken off yet, but I think it's going to have this whole area here, all around here, to spread out and generate more potatoes under the ground. Here's the dianthus here. It's doing pretty good. But I do have quite a bit of open space here. Theoretically, I could put something else in this spot. I kind of left it open to do that, but at this point, I mean, it's May 4th, and I don't even really want to put too much else in the ground, just because the days are getting longer and the sun's getting incredibly intense. So you put everything immediately at risk as soon as you put it in the ground. Right now, a lot of this has been in the ground for the last month to a month and a half, so it's gotten established, and it's in spots that relatively prefers. But here in this other bed, I've got another couple chamomile plants on this side, another vinca or periwinkle. Here's another potato that was planted at the same time as that other one over there. This actually is a radish plant that just kind of took off, and there's no telling what's under the ground there. If there's like a 5-pound radish right now, but it did definitely flower and seed and everything. I've been harvesting the leaves to cook with. They're really good, along with the collard leaves and the Swiss chard, just like from over there. Same exact plants here, just in a little bit of a different setting. These are actually these were planted in a mound. You can see it's kind of hard to tell now. This area's been mulched, but this is between 6 to 9 inches above the surrounding soil. So just a couple kinds of flowers here. I think this is what is it, a calancho, I think. Some pences here, which are looking pretty good. We got a sunflower here, which is already, you know, it's already flowered. It'll keep growing. This is the bok choy that had gone to seed that I just stuck in here to let it, you know, live out the rest of its days and drop seeds and hopefully give me lots of baby bok choy. You can see a couple of them starting to come up here. Here's a dianthus that was not very healthy when I put it in there, so it's just kind of hanging on. Here's a pretty good sized potato plant, and I'm not sure why it fell over. I think it got thumped when I was watering it. But the potato is actually starting to flower, which is kind of cool. These are nice little flowers. Let's see if I can get it to focus. It's kind of hard with the sun going down here. Here's a snapdragon, yellow snapdragon. Grew from seed. Small bankers, and then another plant here. Another blackberry bush. And then growing among the blackberry bush is this other plant, which I'm not sure what it is. So I'll gamble for a little while and let it grow and see if it turns into something that's really good or really noxious. If it's noxious, then I'll just pull it up and get rid of it. But yeah, I had a path back here too, but that rabbit kind of took over. But not a big deal. I can still access anything from either side. So that's mostly it for back here. I've got the squash trained so that it'll continue to grow as long as it wants to, as long as it's able to. It'll just come and kind of take over this space in here, which mostly I just mulched this and covered it with weed fabric just so that I wouldn't have weeds coming up here, because a lot of it was bahia and kind of spotty like that there. But eventually the plan is to do this with the rest of that area there, back to like where the hedges are right there under that tree, so that'll have less area to have to deal with weeds. But you got a lantana and a pot here, a couple of ferns that I got from my parents' house about a year ago that I really like. And then this is actually a blueberry bush that's doing very well in this spot. And actually been a couple blueberries. I just picked the first one a couple days ago actually, and there's another one. They're not like totally blue, kind of purplish, but it's got some give to it. Pretty good. Kind of tart. Definitely not totally ripe yet, but certainly edible. Here's my lemongrass. And you can see all along the base of the lemongrass I got probably a dozen snapdragons coming up, which creates a really cool effect when you look at it from a distance, because the flowers kind of disappear and come in and out of view depending on, you know, if there's wind and these leaves are all flapping around, you know. It just kind of makes for an interesting specimen. So that's kind of why I like having it kind of sort of in the middle of the yard. I mean, when you look at it, you know, from an angle, do a pan for the whole backyard, but it's kind of got a nice commanding presence to it. So over here in this spot, this is where I'm going to be putting in my raised bed once I put it together. I'm going to stick it here and you know, see how tall I want to make it. I just have the frame there just to kind of keep in mind, just so I can get kind of used to the idea of having it there. Over here on the side bed, here on the side of the yard, a bunch of stuff that I just planted recently. We've got more buckwheat over here. These are all green peas, so those are going to get nice and tall. bushy, hopefully. Here's some more radish, some more green peas, and we got some broccoli here on that end, collards, another broccoli, another collard. Here's another kohlrabi. You can see the heart right there. I just put this bed in probably 2 weeks ago, and put all these plants in here. You know, the plants are actually growing around the same time, and then the seeds I put in probably a few days after that. So the seeds are a little bit young, but we got a couple more cameo here on the end, and they're this one's bushier, this one's kind of scraggly. I don't know if that's just because of their health before I put them in here, or if it has something to do with the setting where they're growing right now. But this area actually gets shade for a good portion of the day. I've got my third and final blackberry here, and then another potato plant. So the potatoes got quite a bit of space all around here. Produced me a number of potatoes. This is kind of my plant storage area. Got a couple Vancos and pots here, another bigger one here, some random things here. These are all dragon fruit, so I just repotted these, put them in the bigger pots because they were kind of getting too big. I had them in these size cups, so I still have to do these, repot these in this size container so they have more room to grow. I've got a whole bunch of them, but it's going to be another year or two at least before they start to fruit, so it's a long-term investment. It's a green onion. We've got along the back of the house here 4 collard plants and 4 parsley plants, and so they're alternating. And parsley seems to really like being planted in among the collards, because the collards provide some shade and just some protection from the sun and from the elements, especially because this is right along the drip line of the house. So I don't have gutters, so all the rain, every time it rains, the rain just kind of pours down in this area, so it just gets deflected by the broad leaves of the collards. But yeah, the parsley's, this is one plant here, and it's looking really, really healthy. So this gets probably about 6 hours of sun every day. And then in here is a couple buckwheat that just kind of found their way in there, which is cool. I mean, I have buckwheat microgreens growing, so it's not surprising that some of the seeds just end up elsewhere. But over here is a verbena, and it's spread quite a bit, which is nice. It's just got a very, very attractive flower to it. Back there in the 2 small pots are a couple more of the pintas, just like I have in the back bed over there. And then this here is another pinta. This one I actually put in the ground over a year ago, and it has really, really taken off. It really likes that spot. So, I have the other 2 here, so I don't know if I'm gonna put those in the ground next to this one or what. I'm just kind of keeping them together for now. Then we've got these, what are they called? The mother-in-law tongue or whatever, which I really love these. All 6 of these plants, and then a couple more that I have that I started over there, all came from one plant. So I just pulled it apart and just planted each individual one, and they're all doing really well. And then here we've got purslane, which of course is edible. So I just put this in a bigger pot from the one that I got it in, and hopefully that takes off, and then I'll try cooking with it, just eating it here and there. We do actually have a couple salvias back here. This one and another one right there. Of course, my 2 compost bins. But the bees really love the salvias. So I'd like to ideally get a couple more of these and put them in a couple other spots in the yard. But for now, I'm just trying to keep them spread out so the bees can find them easily and hang out there. We've got a lantana right here, and this is actually the old guard of my collards. I planted this one over a year ago, and out of all the ones that I planted then, it's the only surviving one. And I almost don't even want to harvest the leaves from it just because it's, I just want to let it keep growing. But you can see how many leaves have grown from it, how long the stem is, and it's been through quite a lot. I brought it somewhere with me to a plant sale and put it on a table, and a nice strong gust of wind knocked it over, broke off about half the leaves that it had, and damaged the stem a little bit, but it still managed to hang on, which is impressive. So I'm just watching it grow at this point, just taking care of it for fun. But we got a Chevalier here, which I planted here maybe 2 months ago, and I'm hoping that this gets taller so that I can use it for some privacy and some shade in this area here. Right here we've got a dianthus and then a the name escapes me. Not petunia. Anyway, whatever it is, it'll come to me, I'm sure. But they seem to do really well together. It's just interesting. Here's a whole bunch of petunias that I've got. Along with this, I think it's some kind of native plant. I can't remember exactly what. But here's some more of my native plants. This is a native blue porterweed. So you can see all these little blue, purplish blue flowers that are growing everywhere, which is really nice. I like how it just kind of spreads out. That's the base of it here. And then this is a native milkweed, I believe it is. It has some flowers on it at times, but it's kind of underwhelming. But it's a native, so taking good care of it. And then in here, this was a impatiens, but it is no longer. Here's another lantana here, and then another salvia, like I was talking about before, that the bees really love. And here's Cosmo. He's just hanging out. Cosmo. And here's my jasmine, which is doing quite well here. This is along the south side of the house, so it gets pretty much full sun. But this had a handful of flowers on it a few weeks ago, and they've kind of died back a little bit just because of the heat that we've had. But I'm hoping that it turns into a nice screen, a wall per se, for privacy and for shade for that part of the back porch there. So here we've got a hosta, which it's got some coming up down there, gently well. There's a little oak that I got from my parents' place. That's just taken care of. Don't know where to put it yet, so it's just gonna stay there. This is some kind of hibiscus, I believe. Pretty sure it's native. I just know that it needs to stay wet all the time, so I keep that pot totally soaked. And then another lantana. This one's all kinds of different colors here. Here's my rosemary, which I've had this for about a year and a half, and it does really well. Low maintenance. Another Chevalier, just like on the other side there, trying to get some shade and some privacy from this guy here. A couple more chamomile plants here. That's another kind of hibiscus. This comes out with these massive, very, very attractive flowers. So each one of these little things is eventually going to be a flower pretty soon. Here's impatiens. Really, really like that color there. And this is another one of those. I think it's a swamp hibiscus or something similar to the other one in the big pot. But gotta keep that soaked all the time. But it's doing well. It's got some nice broad leaves to it. My owl back there. Had that for probably a couple years. That's one of the first things I planted, but it likes that spot. It's almost directly underneath this Truffulera, so it gets a lot of shade there. But very healthy. I've seen it bloom once. In here we've got parsley in the marble pot there, the snake plant there in the small pot, and this is another one of the daikon radish that went to seed. It's flowering here in this big pot. I don't know what this is. It's not native. Once in a while it gets those nice little purple flowers. It's not too hot right now, but right here, a bunch of snake plants that actually, these all came from the same one, just like the mother-in-law's tongue. So I'll make maybe a border out of these or something, but for now, they've only been out here for maybe 3 weeks. I'm just trying to get them really established, and then I'll put them in the ground somewhere else. But at least when they're here, I can watch them pretty closely. Here's a desert rose, which all throughout the winter it was dormant. Looked like it was. I mean, if you didn't know any better, you'd think it was dead because it didn't have any leaves on it. But now, just within the last month plus, all the leaves have just shot out, and then the blooms, it's just been blooming like crazy. So I really like having that here on the side of the house where, there's not really too much as far as color and stuff, just because this does get full sun, and a lot of the flowering plants just can't make it in that kind of environment. So that desert rose is a really good option for a spot that just gets totally irradiated for most of the day. But the last couple of things out here are a couple basil plants that came up here. The seeds found their way into the soil from some basil that I've been growing previously. And so I'm letting these go to seed, and hopefully I'll end up with like a nice little basil bush here. And then here we got an oleander. I had 2 oleanders, but the place that I planted them originally was not ideal for them. They were some of the first things that I planted after I moved here. So one of them died, for the most part, and I just pulled the rest of it out. And then the other one, that one back there, was kind of clinging on for dear life. I had it planted basically right in this area. Hi, Bogart. So I took the oleander out and replaced it with the Truffulera, because that, if it does half as well as this one, I'll be happy. So that'll do its fulfill its purpose of providing some shade and some privacy for that area. So the last area here is well, not last because I have more inside, but the last area outside where I have a lot of edibles and things, plants that I'm raising. It's out here, and I have honestly too many things to really go through each one. But obviously, as this stuff gets big enough, like these are approaching that point, then I'll be finding a spot for them outside in one of the garden beds, or in some spot outside, and I'll be planting them out there, and hopefully they'll continue to do well. But this is just kind of my lab, honestly. A lot of these guys, I had started inside and got the seeds to germinate in there, and then once they got big enough, then I would stick them out here to get them used to the heat and the Florida sun, So, I have things die on me, and I have things that take off, and it's all just, kind of it all kind of balances out, you know. But over time, I'm definitely finding that I'm having less things die on me and having more things take off, which is definitely the direction you want to go in. Here's a bunch more of the dragon fruits. I just have a bunch of these. Some more little collards, another broccoli back there, a little parsley, another fern, pineapple back there. And it's getting hard to see. And another broccoli, chocolate mint down here. This Christmas cactus that was from my grandpa's. I've had that for over a year now. And then some more potatoes down here. Some green onion there. Just some other various edibles, beans, and things like that. Dragon fruit. And my one and only tomato plant. It's actually a cherry tomato. And, it's fruiting. It's kind of taking a little break from fruiting right now, so there's the only one I can really see at this point. But other than that, got a couple other little plants here. I know it's getting dark, and that's basically everything. So, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it, and if you have any questions about anything that I'm growing, or would like any tips or anything like that, or any more details on how I'm growing any of my plants, please just let me know, and I'd be happy to help. Alright everyone, take care.